Živo, jaz sem Boštjan Apar in to je podcast številka 71, na drugi strani linije Anže Tomič. Kje si, stari?
V aparatu World Headquarters se temu reče.
Kje pa druge bi bil? Ne?
Ja, valjda. Ja.
In kaj dogaja v aparatu World Headquartersu?
Pa nič, zdaj imamo ta nov sistem snemanja in vsakič moram, da dela in zaenkrat dela. Tako da dajmo na jinxat.
A je to kaj za opisati pohvalice ali samo rečemo, da je nov sistem?
Nov sistem, ne vem, kako to razložiti.
Boš delal.
Lažje, definitivno je lažje. Ja. Tako da to je. Jaz veliko preveč, ampak mislim, da se splača truda vložim v to.
Ja, gre veliko tega. Ampak se mi zdi, da res, to sem že večkrat rekel, recimo, če primerjavo od začetka pa do zdaj, to so taki koraki veliki, že preskoki.
Noro, ja.
Mogoče ljudje to niti ne opazijo toliko, no vsaj upam, da opazijo, kar se tiče kvalitete zvoka pa tega vseeno. Ampak načeloma pa se mi zdi, da smo kar naredili, oziroma predvsem ti si naredil korak naprej. No, tako da. Anže, povej zadeve.
Mislim,
admin zadeve. No.
Zdaj bom začel s služnostjo Krenakom, ki fura naš Twitter account, afna podrobnosti _si, vse hočem reči naenkrat, drugače pa podrobnosti del mreža Aparatus, kjer je še par podcastov, smo tudi na Facebooku, lahko tam posačite aparatus.si, drugače pa tudi ta nov sistem snemanja omogočajo pač podporniki Aparatusa, ful hvala vsem, ki ste to že naredili, oni, ki bi pa radi, pejte pa na aparatus.si/podpri in mislim, da to je admin.
Tako je. Tudi v mojem imenu ena velika zahvala, tako kot vedno sem tisti, ki poslušate in pa na taka pa drugačen način podpirate to mrežo in pa ta podcast. Anže, nekaj moram prebrati. Tu je bil en komentar napisan na iTunesih, kjer pač se piše komentarji, pri podcastu in se mi zdaj tak zanimiv, sam trenutek, da ga tudi kliknem. Mislim, da to je bil čisto zadnji komentar, ki je zdaj prišel ven in napisal, kao super, odlična dinamika med Anžetom in Bokjem, tako naprej. To je bil pa Badzo, pa je pa napisal, edino zdi se, da Anže že vsaj 2 leti kupuje kable za mešalno mizo in ne vem, kdaj bo končno naše uprave.
Spomnim se tega in sem že na Facebooku to objavil. Tako bi rekel, mešalko sem zdaj najdel. Zdaj sem najdel mojo dream mešalko, ki jo imam zdaj že skoraj, 4 mesece, 5 zihar, in jo uporabljam in jo znam uporabljati, to si upam reči. Kar se pa kablov tiče, jih imam pa tam za eno škatlo kablov, ki jih ne rabim. V bistvu sta 2 škatle, pred to sploh ne zabavam.
No, pa kabli so še uporabni.
So uporabni, ampak jaz jih ne rabim, ker se da...
No, če je med vami kak nadobuden podcaster, javite se Anže, to bo zihto kable.
Ja, bom spedejno kable, ker jih imam res kar ene par, ki jih ne rabim več. Ja.
No, evo. V glavnem, današnji gost, zopet gremo v košarkarske vode, in to je pa moj soigralec iz Houston Rocketsov, Jim Jackson, NBA igralec, mogoče tiste malo starejše, predvsem mislim tudi ti, ki ste mogoče okoli mojega letnika pa starejši, ki ste gledali košarko v 90-ih, pa tudi tam 2000-2005, se boste spomnili Jim Jacksona, ki je igralec, ki je 14 sezon igral v ligi NBA, vse od Dallas Mavericksov, Netsov, pa tako naprej, Blazersov z mano v Houston Rocketsov, mogoče se ga boste spomnili Sacramento Kingsov, ker je igral takrat z Vlado Divcem in pa s Pedžo. Eden mojih najljubših soigralcev, mogoče ni največja zvezda, s katerim sem kdajkoli igral, je pa eden soigralcev, od katerega sem se veliko naučil. Predvsem seveda igrati proti njemu na treningu, ker je igral na moji poziciji, ampak tudi spremljati njega, kot recimo takrat že, ko sem jaz bil v Ameriki, on bil nekak veteran in se učiti od njega je bilo za mene izjemno pomembno. Tako da z Jimom sem bila vsa ta leta nekako skozi v tem nekem majhnem kontaktu tu in tam, da sem se pozdravila prek neta pa to, ampak zdaj smo se končno našli skupaj, smo rekli, da imamo ta podcast narediti. Glede na to, da Jim zdaj dela tudi za televizijsko mrežo Fox Sports 1, se pravi tudi on je, ve, kaj so kabli, Anže. S takimi ljudmi se vedno potem lažje povezati, ki bolj razumejo celo to sceno in smo se odločili z njim narediti en pogovor na temo košarke, seveda. Tako da upam, da bo lepo, da bo neuspešno, da bo prijetno za poslušati. Smo še kaj vse pozabljeni že?
Ne, mislim, da je to.
Pa pritisni tam čarobni gumb, pa štarti zadevo. Okay, so we have Jim Jackson on the line all the way over from the LA. Jim, how you doing?
I'm chilling, man. Chilling in LA, cigar in mouth, watching golf on a wonderful Labor Day. So can't complain. What about you guys?
Yeah, we're not smoking cigars and watching golf, but let's say that we're chilling also. So.
Okay.
Yeah, we.
Hey, good. Well, Boke, I got to get over there, man. I love Spain, so I got to come see you and hang out, man. Maybe before your season starts.
That'll be awesome. I mean, did you visit Spain before, or you never been over here?
No, I've been to Barcelona and Madrid, man, and had a pause. A couple years ago, went over in September, actually. And I love history, saw all the Gaudi Museum stuff and the architecture. I was just walking around the city, man.
Yeah,
loving it and enjoying it.
Yeah, Spain is beautiful, and it's there's a lot of American tourists here. Not just American, but people from all over the place. Also here in Seville, in the south of Spain. But also, Spain is, as you know, also very good. Is great basketball country. The Spanish national team is probably one of. Not probably. It is one of the best in the world. Probably right behind the U.S. national team. For many years now. The Spanish league is tough. It's good. It's competitive. A lot of NBA guys come from Spanish league or to go through Spanish league to get to the NBA. So, it's definitely a lot of things to do if you would decide to come over here. Not just to sightsee, but also see some good basketball, which I'm sure you would enjoy.
You gonna take me to see the Barber of Seville, man? You gonna take me to see that?
No problem, man. Whatever. We'll find anything. We'll figure it out.
All right.
But anyways, it's so good to talk to you. I don't even know when was the last time, Jim, that I talked to you. It's probably been years now. It's been 2008 was the last time I played in the NBA, and after that season, 2008, I decided to come back to Europe. I'm not completely sure which was your last season. I think 2006 with the Lakers was the last time you played, right? Yeah. That's the last time I played against you, but we were also teammates. So that's obviously how we know each other. And playing for the Rockets was, at least for me, an incredible experience. Having you on the team among other guys, especially you playing on my position and learning from you was an incredible opportunity for me. And I always been thankful for it. The funny thing is that we also got traded at the same time.
I know
from the Rockets.
When I didn't go.
Exactly. I got traded to the Hornets, and then you ended up in Phoenix. Which was awesome playing. You playing for Mike D'Antoni and that up tempo style of basketball.
Yeah.
So that was good to see. So that's just a little bit of history of how we know each other and how we met and how we went separate ways. But Jim, please talk to me. Like, how did you get into basketball? I always like to ask our guests, how did they get into basketball? Like, did you grow up in an environment where basketball is very popular, or was that something that you were seeking? Is that something that you were looking for, or it just came to you naturally?
Boki, I think we're probably similar. Well, in my neighborhood growing up, we played everything. Back in the day, you played baseball, football, basketball. You ran a little track. You did a lot of different activities because everything was based outside. So we played in the park a lot. We played in the alleys. We played in people's backyards. So basketball was always around, even when I went to community centers. But quite honestly, though, football was my favorite sport. And I loved to play football. Football was like my favorite sport. We played street football. I didn't get to organized football until I was like a freshman in high school. But I loved it. So basketball was kind of like secondary. Football was the big thing. But we would always play basketball. And I finally fell in love with the game probably after my 8th grade year, my freshman year. Really fell in love with the game. But it was a byproduct, Boki, of playing in the neighborhood, playing against some older guys, and then appreciating the game. Now, I didn't watch a lot of basketball when I was growing up like that. I loved Magic Johnson. I loved Julius Erving when I was young. And then, of course, Michael Jordan as I got a little bit older. But I would love to watch football more than anything else, man, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
can I ask something? This is going to sound stupid. What is street football?
Street football is basically you play two-hand tapped in the street, 3-on-3, 4-on-4 in the street.
Ah, okay.
So because you can't tackle, so you're out of bounds is like kind of where the curbs are at. If you go on top of it, you're out of bounds. So It was more restricted, but it was a lot of fun because you just had guys out there playing in the middle of the street. Game of football. Now, you couldn't tackle. It was more two-hand tap, but it was a way for us to. what we did more than anything else, guys, it kept us out of trouble. All we did is play. You know, we played football. Now, we did have areas where we lived that we can go and play street against street in regards to having a football team, and we play on grass and you could tackle. You know what I mean? So you would travel from neighborhood to neighborhood playing against different neighborhoods, you know, on grass. So that's what we did back in the day.
Yeah, well, the reason Andrzej is asking because you know, obviously American football is not popular in Europe, so we don't know all these details about you know, here we have soccer, which is like by far the most popular sport, like by far. You know? And then there's basketball and other sports. But you know, I completely understand Andrzej when he says street football. Like, what is that? You know, and I imagine that is something that, you know, you can't really tackle guys. Guys will really get hurt if you tackle them on.
Oh no, you'll get coming in the street. You can't do it. I mean, now you can get hurt because you might have cars that are parked on the street, so you got to figure out how to get around the car and do some things. But we'll try to be in a place where we didn't have a lot of stuff on the street. But a lot of times you're in the neighborhood. So if you wanted to play and couldn't go to the park, you had to figure out ways to play on the street. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, for kids when we were 8, 9, 10 years old, 11, 12, just to have fun and be outside. I think that's what a lot of the kids miss today is, especially in America, is not being outside to play. The beautiful thing about European football is that you're outside. You go out and play. You know what I mean? You can get a group of guys together and just go play. In America, that has been lost, you know, touch football in the street, playground basketball. A lot of those things have been lost, man, because now it's too organized. Guys just want to go into the gym and play. You don't have the same kind of things that we used to do in regards to just playing ball outside. It's more inside now.
Yeah, but I think there's the same problem in Europe also. Like, obviously not when it comes to soccer or, you know, football as you call it, because it is an outside sport. But when it comes to basketball, I see there's less kids outside playing basketball than there were, you know, 10, 20 years ago. When I was growing up, all the courts were full of kids just playing. Now that's not the case, and we talked about this on the podcast before. I'm sure, Jim, you talked to other people about it, like whether it's that the internet, the video gaming that's more attractive to kids now, whatever it is, you know, Facebook, all that. But it's changing for sure, you know, because back in the day, you know, for us was school, and then after school you were on the court playing basketball until the sunset. You know, now I think that has changed not only in the States but also in the other parts of the world. You know.
Well, I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy to hear too. And I think the problem too, Bulky, is that a lot of these kids, as you know, they're probably more worldly and more intelligent just because they see more, they download more information at a younger age. You know what I mean? They're exposed to a lot more. But what you don't have is their social skills suffer. You know what I mean? Because they're not having face-to-face conversations. They're not interacting, you know, outside in big groups like we used to. You know, and you lose, I think, a certain part of the communication aspect of these kids. When they get in these social environments, they're not as comfortable because they're not used to interacting, you know, with each other in the big groups or doing stuff like this on a daily basis because they're either, you know, texting somebody or emailing somebody or liking a post or online instead of a face-to-face. Let me look you in the eye, see your body language, laugh. You're not missing that. So it's a catch-22. Technology has opened up the door for a lot of things, but it's closed it in some aspect in regards to, I think, the kids' communication aspect of it.
Yeah, and funny that you mentioned that because you know, the team that I play for here in Seville, we have I think a really good coach that you know, he played in the NBA. Maybe you remember him, Jean Tabak. He played for the Houston Rockets, Toronto Raptors. He's my coach here now, and he said to all the young guys that we have on the team that are 19, 20-year-old kids, he's telling them he calls them WhatsApp generation because he says instead of calling a switch on defense, he gets mad when they don't communicate. He's like, why don't you just send him a WhatsApp text and ask him to switch? You know, because he's like so upset. And I do understand because, for example, if I compare it now and, you know, 15 years ago when I was, you know, starting my professional career, when I would come to the locker room after the practice or after the game, especially after practice when the atmosphere is more relaxed, you'd have all the teammates in the locker room joking around, talking and all that. Now it's quiet and everybody's just looking at their phones.
Yeah.
And I really don't like that. For them, I know it's different. That's how they grew up and that's what they used to. But for me, I absolutely hate it, So sometimes I come into the locker room, I see all these kids on their phones. I'm like, glad to see you guys communicating, I'm like kind of get mad a little bit at them because it is so different. Jim, so after high school, obviously college career was big for you, playing for Ohio State, Buckeyes, a well-known college. So that's where your let's say your career, not professional career yet, but your career really like lifted off. Like, you always had a great college career and got drafted real high. How important was to pick the right college, to go to the right college, play for the Buckeyes and have a great college career?
Bulky, it was, and back then you didn't have a lot of guys coming out of high school. Sean Kemp did it before me. He was a year ahead of me. He did it. So you didn't have a lot of guys, coming out of college going right to the pro.
You played all
coming
4
out
years,
of high
right?
school.
You played all 4 years.
I played 3 years, and most of the time, most guys stayed at least 2. You know what I mean? It wasn't like a lot of freshmen came out. Usually, it was 2 years. But for me, choosing Ohio State, it's funny. I never wanted to go there. My top 5 schools were Syracuse, North Carolina, Georgetown, Ohio State, Michigan. Because at that time, I was a huge Big East basketball fan. John Thompson, the Hoyas, and Derek Coleman, and Pearl Wall, all these people in the Big East, and Patrick Ewing. I just St. John's. I love the Big East. But a good friend of mine said, Jim, you can go to those schools all you want, but the alumni base, being from Ohio, the legacy would be there, especially if you become successful. And then at that time, Gary Williams, who went on to coach at Maryland, won a national championship, he was a coach at Ohio State. So he was changing the dynamics of Ohio State basketball, was getting more excited. He was going to get big recruits. And I said, well, heck, I can be a part of something special and grow the program. And that's what happened. And that's why I ultimately chose to go to Ohio State, which probably, honestly, Bo, was probably the best decision I ever made because we won a lot. We put Ohio State basketball back on the map. I was from Ohio, and it's a legacy that a lot of people go back to during that time period. That was a great kind of resurgence for Ohio State, and I was fortunate to be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. And you have your jersey retired, right? I
figured they had to cover up some stuff up there up top, so they put my jersey up there to cover up stuff. That's why it's up there. But no, I got it retired, and that's because I had some great teammates, man. I mean, the coaching staff, they allowed me to play the game the way I needed to play it. If it wasn't for them, and again, it's very easy. Bo, you've been around it. Guys could be jealous, guys could be envious, but we didn't have that, and that's why we're very close. A lot of my teammates, we're very close today because we supported each other. Guys are going to have their stuff, but at the end of the day, we all supported each other.
Yeah, and I never played college basketball, but all the people, all the players that I know that did, whether they were American, European, they all have incredible memories of playing college basketball. Mm-hmm. It's a unique experience. Being a young kid and
it's
playing.
Unique, both because you're young, you're trying to figure it out. You're being exposed to different kind of cultures on college campus. A lot of us may come from a smaller city. You get to compete at a high level, but more importantly, you grow, you mature. And sometimes, guys who don't experience college for a number of years, you lose that. They're always, there's special guys like Kobe and Garnett and LeBron James. Those guys that come out and just,
but there's also been examples where the kids did come out early and they didn't work out for them. And if they went to college, it probably would work out much better for them, right?
Oh yeah. But they chose a path that for them they thought at the time was perfect. But here's the thing: a lot of it too, Boke, is not how you're going to fit in basketball wise. You know this by being around, by seeing young players. Is how do you fit in mentally? When things are not going well, when things are tough, because you haven't really been through that before. Now you're on a professional level, and you haven't gone through it in college, kind of the ups and downs, the disappointments. The growth and maturity. Now you're learning on the fly as a young player. And a lot of those guys, to be honest with you, couldn't handle it. Not that they weren't skilled enough, but sometimes mentally they weren't prepared enough to endure, as both an 82-game season, the grind, and especially sometimes if you're not playing well, how do you handle it? And being 18 and 19 sometimes, they just don't know.
Well, the biggest now that I look back at it, and you know, different teammates I had through the years that I was in the NBA, and the guys that were very talented and came into the league. I'm not talking about like top picks, but even the guys that were like late first round or second rounders that I think, in my opinion, they could still make it. A lot of times I saw that they just got satisfied, like they were in the league and they thought they already made it. You know, and that's like, I think, one of the biggest mistakes you can make as a young player, to think that you already made it. I think once you get into the NBA, that's where all the work starts. That's not the end of the road. You know, that's where all the work starts. It's just an opportunity that's been given to you, and it's up to you to take advantage of it or not. And I've seen this, you know, with many different players, that they just I don't know what else to call it. Then I would call it became lazy. You know, didn't work as hard, were not committed, and 2 years later they were out of the league. You know. And it's a shame, and you know, that's why also, in my opinion, like being in college in the right program for at least 2 years, you know, it's extremely important for a person to grow and to realize what's important when it comes to dedicating yourself to a basketball career.
Now, is that what you tell the young fellas you got there that are there with you?
Yeah, I mean, for Europeans, it is different because we don't have colleges here. I mean, we do have colleges, but we don't have college basketball here. So for our young guys that are 19, 20 years old, they joined the pro team already here. So whether that's better or worse, I don't know. It's different, but it's definitely good because they see already at a young age what it needs to be done to be successful as a pro, so they can learn quicker. That's why I think you see in a lot of European players who come over to the States that they're more mature. At least that's what people, coaches state, because they've done the pro life for a year or 2 or 3 already by the time they get to the NBA. You know, the bad thing about it is that in Europe, in a lot of cases, a lot of situations, you have to decide whether you want to go to college or you want to pursue basketball career, you know, and that's not good, because in the States, I think it at least gives you a chance to do both. If you decide to go college and play, but you know, as far as the guys that do end up making it to NBA, I think they do have advantage because they're more seasoned, you know, because they've been through this pro program already. How was it for you, the transition from college to the NBA and getting drafted, you know, number 4 by Dallas Mavericks? How was that transition? How do you look back at it now, and how were those first few years in the NBA for you?
But 2 things. One, I mean, being drafted high was, awesome. Think about it. It was Shaquille O'Neal was first, Alonzo Mourning, then it was Christian Laettner, then it was me.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Bo, I had a holdout my rookie year. See, because the Mavericks didn't want to pay me what the 4th pick was worth. So I ended up holding out until, you know, mid-February almost. Mm-hmm. So I only played 28 games my rookie year. So, but I had to do it, you know, ironically, because if I didn't stand my ground at that time and get the contract that I deserved in regards to my market value, okay, because I was slotted in to the 4th pick, okay, you're going to get 6 years and X amount of dollars, you know?
Right.
And I stayed and I fought, and I took a lot of criticism for it, you know, because I held out. But it all worked out, but I missed my rookie year. Okay, basically, I missed my rookie year. Now, at that time, Bo, I'm going to be honest with you, the Mavericks, we were terrible. I mean, when I got in finally in February, the Mavericks only had won 4 games at that point.
Oh, wow, okay.
Okay, yeah, you're talking about, I mean, and it was rough. And then we ended up winning 11 games. You know, I was 7-21, the 28 games I was there. Then the following year, Jamal came in, and we only won 13 games that year. So the first 2 years, you know, you're excited, you're ready to go, you're in the league. Now I'm playing against, you know, back then you think about who was all playing the teams that were great and some of the top 50 players, Dominique. You're playing against Michael, Scotty, all the Seattle teams, the guys from Portland, Drexler. You're playing against Barkley in Phoenix. You're playing against, you know, the Indiana teams with Reggie Miller and Rick Smith. I mean, you just playing against some of the Patrick Ewing and Elijah. I mean, it's crazy. We just weren't talented. So it was tough. You're talking about a young players trying to figure it out, and you only winning maybe a game or 2 a month. And that's hard.
That's tough.
You know,
tough, yeah.
So I've been through, you know, the holdout, the losing. You know what I mean? It was hard at the beginning, And the hardest thing to do, Volk, is not to develop bad habits because you're losing. It's so easy to kind of say, I'm going to go for mine and we're losing. But that's when the discipline got to come in, and you gotta have some veterans that can help you through it. Unfortunately, I was able to have a few that guided me through that tough process. But it was tough at the beginning, man.
Yeah, for sure. No, that had to be tough. You know, I can only imagine. You know, once I got traded from Houston to New Orleans, that year the New Orleans was really bad too.
Yes.
And I kind of know, like, it was good for me personally because I played a lot and I was able to like establish myself finally. But as far as like winning and all that, it was terrible. Not until the next year when we got Chris Paul and things got better. But it is interesting you were mentioning all these names before, from Michael Jordan to Charles Barkley. Like the 90s, for me now that I look back at it, were like by far the best, like the best basketball era. Like if I look at all the different eras, you know, I grew up in the 90s. I mean, I was a teenager in the 90s. That's when I started following NBA basketball. Went through all the phase of watching the Bulls and watching the Rockets win in the 90s and Magic Johnson before that with the Lakers and so on and so on. That's where I like really fell in love with NBA basketball. And you know, how were the 90s? Like now that you look back at the 90s, like for me it was like a romantic time of basketball. You know,
yeah.
Like I really,
I
really do think when I look back at it, that's the word that comes up. And how was it playing back then? Like especially compared to the NBA now, you know, because now the NBA is so global. And people from all over the world follow it, and they can see it live on their computers, you know, phones, whatever. Back then, it was different. And how was the whole experience like playing in the NBA in the 90s? It was a different time, you know.
Oh no, but it was a totally different game. And now keep in mind, you had bad teams back then too. Okay, it's not like every team was just like dominant or playing well, but you just had. It was a different kind of game because it was more physical. The 3-point line wasn't as prevalent. You didn't park behind it. You weren't shooting, 53s a game. It was built around post players, 2 guards, the ability to get the ball in the paint and play tough defense, okay? But the difference too, Boki, is that you had what I consider grown men. When I came in the league, probably the average age was 28, 29 maybe, somewhere in there. So you were playing against established veterans as a rookie. Okay, not now you're playing against guys that if you're 19, well, you're playing against most of your stars are 21, 22, 23 years old. You know what I mean? The bulk of the league. Mm-hmm. And so the game was different. The coaching style was different. The physical nature of the game was totally different. Hey, if you were a guard and you ran through the lane and you wanted to go set a pick on Patrick Ewing, right, across street, he was taught to put an elbow right in your chest, or right in your neck. Now, if you do that, it's a flagrant foul. But, at that time, it was different. And the mentality of the players were a lot different from a professional perspective on how to play the game and how to do things. And plus, they think about it, Bo, we didn't have social media back then either.
Right.
Which is huge because, to be honest with you, a lot of stuff we did, if we did it with social media, woo! We might have had some good stories out there, but it was a different time, a different era, and I look back at it as it was a pleasure for me to play in that time. But I'm gonna say this: the game had to change in some aspect. So I'm not one of those guys who, the 90s was so much better and you needed to stay like this. No, the game had to evolve a little bit more to be more acceptable internationally. So I think they did a really good job of doing that. It's just 2 different eras of basketball. You know what I mean? Yeah,
no, I do. And that was kind of like my next question, but you answered it in part already. Like, because I thought you're going to be just like you said, like one of those retired players who are like dissatisfied with the game being too soft nowadays and being so much quote unquote better in the 90s, and tougher and all that. But I completely agree with you. Like the game had to evolve, and game is going to keep evolving because that's just the natural course of like the game getting better, faster, whatever. And like you said, like even more appealing to like international audience, maybe.
Right.
It's definitely that your perspective is like maybe different than a lot of other retired players who I whether see online or see on TV or whatever, where they keep saying how much tougher the game was in the 90s, and how it's better, that it should be like that again. That now every touch foul is a small contact is called a foul, and so on and so on. But Jim, if you would have to change some rules in today's NBA, would there be something that you would like to change, or do you like the game as it is now?
Well, I mean, some of the touch foul rules, the impeding of the progress is a little bit tougher to control and manage, just because of guys, want to be able to play tough defense, but a lot of times you can't, because if you touch someone 20 feet away, 25 feet away, with the hand check rule at times, or the impeding progress, you're not able to play defense. So you get penalized, I think, a lot of times against some of the better players, because you can't play defense in a certain way. I like the adjustments in regards to I love the speed and pace of the game. And it puts a tough onus on a lot of officials who kind of want to let players play, but they know they're getting graded too. If I had to change anything, it would be that. Maybe also, you talk about, the hack and shack rule and stuff like that, and what they're going on. They're going to change that as well.
Yeah.
I do think it's a great strategy. Hey, it's his fault if he can't make free throws. At the same time, it slows down the pace of the game. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, because more coaches employed that. But really, it's only for a small segment of the NBA. It's like 3 or 4 players that you're really going to do that to. But it impacts the game. But I mean, I like where the game is going in regards to, it's up tempo. Fans really enjoy it. Players love to play that way. Think about it, Bogut. I played a little bit like that in Phoenix. I played like that in Sacramento. And it's a different kind of game. It's a lot, more conducive to getting out and run. Now, you don't have centers. Most of your guys are smaller, so you don't have post-up play anymore, which I think will come back around. But I think the game has to evolve, and Adam Silver and the rest of the league are doing a really good job of utilizing a lot of the athleticism and talent that's out there with these young players.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And you mentioned the Phoenix Suns, but especially Sacramento Kings, which, for a lot of, European fans like myself, fans of basketball, especially in that era, like growing up, where the Kings were like a European team, especially because of Vlade and Peja, So we all followed the Kings, right, Angel? Like, it was like our favorite team. And you were on
Hedo.
Yeah.
Hedo
exactly. Exactly. Like, you were on that team for a year. How fun was it to play that kind of style of basketball? I mean, looking at it now, like the way it was, like passing the ball, a lot of cuts, having all shooters around, Divac being kind of like a point center, whether it was Jason Williams and then later on Mike Bibby, both point guards did a good job there. How fun was it to play in that kind of system, and what did you get from it? Like, how did you enjoy that?
Well, you think about it. Our team was kind of like the Golden State Warriors, except we were bigger because of Vlade and Chris. I mean, Draymond Green was basically like Chris Webber. Chris was just bigger. A guy that could shoot, could pass, could handle the ball. Draymond's a better defensive player because he can guard more positions. But you think about our team with Mike Bibby, Jackson, Bobby Jackson, Hedo, Turkoglu. You're talking about Peja Stojakovic, Doug Christie, guys that could shoot, that could pass, that could handle. So we played that up-tempo style. Plus, you have Vlade, who was just a straight clown. He's a comedian. I love Vlade to death. But his ability to pass the basketball from the high post, you know what I mean, to see the defense and score inside, to be honest with you, the game was fun. But, more importantly, Boki, I fell back in love with the game of basketball because I had great teammates. Scott Pollard was on the team. Damon Jones, Mateen Cleaves. We had Keon Clark. We had some great guys. We hung. This. It's hard for 8 or 9 people from the same team to hang out, right?
Yes.
At one time. But that's what we did. We hung out together. We would go to, Oakland Raider games together.
Yeah, that's extremely important. Like the team chemistry, I think if you have that, you're like already one step ahead, especially in the NBA when there's so much talent. I think that's extremely important. And my memory is like playing against the Kings the year that you were there, but even the later, the year after that, we were teammates and that, like, it was always tough to play because it was so hard to tactically prepare yourself for these, like you said, put Divac on the high post, then have, guy in the corner, the point guard passes to Divac, he comes to the corner, sets the screen, Peja comes off, like, you don't know if he's going to shoot or cut. It was extremely hard to guard. Like, for me, it was one of the toughest teams and toughest players, like when it comes to Peja, to guard in like my career. People always ask me like, oh, you played in NBA. How was it to guard Kobe and guard, this guy and that guy, which are all amazing players. And it's extremely tough, almost impossible to guard. But my answer is always like the toughest was Peja. It really was for me.
Because Peja was always moving.
Always moving, yeah.
Yeah, you could never sleep with a guy like Peja. And plus, people didn't realize how big Peja was. Yeah, I mean, because he had kind of like a short torso, but he was still 6'8", 6'9", and he weighed about 240. You know what I mean? And people,
he was big, yeah.
Didn't realize how big Peja was, and well, maybe not 240, but maybe 235, 230. And he always moved. He was intelligent, and he had such a quick release on a shot that this, Bo. If you're a half a second late, you're paying attention to the backside action. And then go Pages. So trust me, it was tough for me to guard him. But I had the pleasure of guarding him in practice at times, and then, of course, in the game. But I hated guarding guys like him, guarding guys like Reggie Miller, Dale Curry, guys that were Ray Allen, guys that were always moving were, to me, always the tougher guys to guard.
Yeah, I agree. And we just mentioned, like we just said, how important it is to have a good team chemistry. But from your experience, like you play for a lot of NBA teams and been on successful teams, winning teams, and losing teams, and now that you look back, like which for you are the most important things inside the team, like inside the locker room, inside the team, like as far as you said team chemistry, but also like all the other factors, like what has to be. Like if you would be a GM or if you'd be a coach, if you'd be a guy running the team, like what would be the things that you would be looking for to try to put into a team to say we need these things in order to become a successful winning team?
A couple of different things. One, you have to have great management. I mean, it's a reason why San Antonio is always in the mix. They may not win it every year, but the dynamics of that management and how that organization works, the consistency, Tim Duncan, since he came in '97, every year in the playoffs. Come on, man. I mean, it starts from up top. And, in Boki, we saw this when we were in Houston. We didn't have the best chemistry. Mm-hmm. Not that we weren't as talented as anybody out there, but I don't think from a management perspective had that. Okay, and I love Jeff to death because Jeff, to me, was one of the best coaches I played for.
Yeah, me too.
So that's important. Also, too, you got to have the right kind of leaders on the team. And everybody, and sometimes your best player is not your best leader, And you got to have somebody that's going to be able to have the voice of the team that people respect, that's just not going to talk about it, but that's going to do it. And if you have that, you're able to follow that person. And again, everybody, you got to have people that understand how to play their roles. You know what I mean? Everybody can't be the scorer. Everybody can't be the leading scorer. Everybody can't shoot all the time. If you have a team that understands, like Golden State, what made Golden State so tough was that, especially in their second unit, was guys didn't come in trying to be Steph. They knew who Steph was. They knew who Clay is. Everybody played their position and played their role, and that's why they were so tough to beat. They didn't go outside of that. So if you can combine that with guys that are willing to work their butts off, play their position, you have good chemistry, and you have outstanding management, now you got a chance to be competitive every year. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to get to a championship and win it, but I damn sure guarantee you got a chance to get there and be competitive.
Yeah, and I wrote down one thing you said. The thing you said, your best player can be your best leader. I think that's an awesome quote. I never put it together like that, and that's something that I'll definitely remember. I think it's an awesome quote.
Well, you think about it. I mean, you played on a couple of teams. Sometimes your best player is not the guy that you need to be the voice because they may be the most talented player, but they may not do all the little things that's necessary to win. LeBron James, come on, bro. He's the best player, but he demands so much of himself and he holds himself accountable. So his teammates are able to hold him accountable, but he's going to be a prime example of what you need to do as a leader. And that's why you go to a Miami and you turn it around, even though Dwayne was there. That's why you come back to Cleveland and you're able to go to back-to-back finals and you win it because of that person. And it's not too many. Kobe, as great as Kobe was, was he actually your best leader? I think more it was probably Derek Fisher at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? On the Laker team.
Yeah, but I think as a superstar, a superstar level player, like you also have to be unselfish enough to kind of give way to a guy that might be a better leader. You know?
Yeah.
I
think that's what Kobe did too with Derek Fisher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. And like we said, like you played on a lot of different teams and with a lot of different players for a lot of different coaches. Jim, if you have to choose, what was your favorite team, your favorite coach, and your favorite teammate throughout your career?
Wow.
Is that a tough question? Probably.
No. I played with so many great players, though, Bo. I mean, from a young J kid, Jamal Mashburn, to an Allen Iverson, to a Kobe Bryant, to a Steve Nash. You know what I mean? To Dikembe Mutombo, to Alonzo Mourning. I played with some of the best players that are going to be in the Hall of Fame eventually. Tracy McGrady was a great player. You know what I mean? It's just all of them were different. Kobe was a straight assassin. Allen Iverson, no matter what, hurt, tired, never stopped playing. You know what I mean? Would never miss a game. So it's kind of
he might have missed practice.
Well, you know what though? It's funny though. When I was there, he never missed practice like that.
Really?
You know what I mean? He you know what I'm saying? So, and Steve Nash had his own way. I love Steve to death because of one, the personality. Just a great guy, and just he had me amazed at times just watching him play. And I'm on the court with him. I'm like, oh shit, I got to get my shit together. Steve is out here. You know what I mean? So that's a hard question for me to answer because I've had so many great teammates. But team-wise, probably a split between Sacramento and Phoenix because those teams were very similar in the way we played and the teammates I had. And coaching-wise, I would have to say Pat Riley, and I'd say it from this perspective. He held everybody accountable. You know how it is, both. You got a coach and you got players, and they're afraid to say some things to people, hold them accountable. And Pat Riley ain't like that. I mean, he will go at Alonzo just like he would go at the 15th man on the team. Mm-hmm. He expects you to be professional. You come play defense. You come do your job. Then you'll be cool. If you don't, we're going to have a problem. And he, expressed that. He hated to lose. But when you did things the right way, he treated you the right way. He treated you like a grown man, and he expected you to give that back in your effort each and every day to come and be a professional. And I think that's something a lot of young guys need to learn when they come in is how to be a professional in the league. And no one was better than Pat Riley at that.
Yeah, and I mean, no wonder that he's been one of the most successful coaches for years. I mean, he's not coaching anymore, but still, like, what it seems like he's the way he's respected around the league is probably also, or maybe mostly because of what you just described.
Now he's tough to play for now. Don't get me wrong. Jeff was a disciple. Jeff had a little bit more personality. You know what I mean? Yeah. Jeff had that funny sense of humor, like you hear him now when he's doing games. Yeah.
I love Jeff. I love Jeff as a commentator. I think he's my favorite. He's by far my favorite. Oh
man, and Jeff drank. Bulky, how many Diet Cokes did Jeff go through, man? I mean, from the beginning of practice all the way through.
Yeah. He's awesome. He was a tough coach. Like I said before, like when we talked on this podcast, like Jeff. For me, Jeff was he was a coach that I did not play a lot for Jeff. Like it was my second year that he took over the Rockets, and I played some, and I had towards my second year I had a bigger role and had a bigger role in the playoffs when we played against the Lakers in the first round, and so on and so on. So, but the thing is that he taught me so much in the year and a half that I was with him, so much, and I didn't realize that until later on in my career. Yep. When some of the things that I did, for example, with Byron Scott, who was coach with New Orleans Hornets, or Lawrence Frank, who was with the New Jersey Nets, like some of the things that they were trying to teach that I already knew because I was with Jeff, and it helped me get bigger role and have more minutes on the court and help my career because of that. So I've always been thankful to Jeff, even though like I did not play a lot and I got traded later on, which ended up being better for me and so on and so on. But still, like he's been amazing, and there's some talk that he might come back to coaching. What is your opinion on that? Maybe obviously this.
I don't know, Bo. I don't know if Jeff, because I think with Jeff, and it's how do you balance family and coaching? I think Jeff had a hard time of that when his daughter was young. spending the time because he was such a gym rat in regards to being at the office and watching film and staying late. I think he values that time with his family a lot more now. And I think that's why, and he's just also, I love listening to Jeff and Mark together.
They're the best.
You know, and I think he's enjoying that part of his career because he can go do his game a couple days a week and be done with it. You know what I mean? And not to dedicate the same time. I mean, he probably has the itch, but I think right now his family, and I'm just speaking from what I've heard and talked to him about that maybe that the family aspect, I think, prevents him from really diving back in to take on another head coaching job. But you never know.
Yeah, you never know. But the coaching is not something that you ever thought in going to.
Hell no.
There was an answer.
We are very similar. Like people ask me if I want to coach after my career, and my answer is pretty similar to what you just said.
Right. I mean, but you know how much time you got to. Now, I love to teach the game, and I think I could be a great asset and a great coach in the right situation. But the time you got to dedicate to it, I just enjoy I enjoy doing other stuff. I enjoy my free time in the summer. I enjoy to travel. I enjoy doing different business stuff. I enjoy doing the commentating. With coaching, it's not as bad in NBA as it is in college. College is just like the worst. I mean, in regards to, recruiting and dealing with AU and dealing with parents and dealing with the school and the alumni. That is just crazy. I don't know how college coaches do it, but in the NBA, you got a little bit more time, but still, it's a time demanding kind of thing. And I've never been one to say I really want to dedicate myself to that completely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but doing TV it's probably been fun, right? Like
it's been awesome, man.
You mostly do college basketball, correct? Or only college basketball, right?
I do college live. I'll cover our NBA coverage with Fox, in studio. Yeah, because we don't actually have games on our big network.
Right.
But watching it gives you a good balance. I was able to cover my son for 4 years when he played at Wisconsin.
I know. Yeah. How was that? How was that experience to cover, to commentate or analyze games of your son? Like that's got to be.
It was crazy. It was crazy because when he was a sophomore, once he began to start, they took me off of his game. They wouldn't let me cover. So I could only talk about it really in studio, which was okay. You know what I mean? I would love to have done at least one of my son's games when he was really starting and playing. But to watch him grow for 4 years, to be there for the 2 Final Fours in the national championship game, to cover all of that, it was, you couldn't have scripted it even any better because I retired. He started his freshman year in high school. I started working for the Big Ten Network. He went to Wisconsin, which is in the Big Ten. So I got to cover. So that was, in itself, well worth it. You know what I mean? It was a lot of fun to watch him play and grow.
I can only imagine. And since you're mentioning your son, like for the end, I want to ask you. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of basketball players, basketball fans and basketball players, probably young basketball players, listening to this conversation. Like, what would be your advice for like a young basketball player, like guy trying to make it, whether it's make it in Europe, whether it's make it to the NBA? What are the most important things that young players should keep in mind when it comes to deciding that they want to dedicate their young life to the game of basketball?
Well, depending on where you're at in the stage. If you're still in high school, you got to understand how to play the game. Be as versatile as possible. Not just athletic, not just a shooter. Today's game is about versatility. Being able to do a lot of different things. And your value on a team is not solely based on if you can put the ball in the basket. I think a lot of guys get caught up into that. Now, guys that are trying to transition from college and get into the NBA, my thing is the dream and goal is the NBA, right? Everybody wants to get there. But, it's only 400 some odd jobs, okay? It's different ways to get there. Maybe your path is not in the draft. Maybe it's not in the D-League. It may be overseas for a year. Then you come back, hone your game. You can't be dismayed by not getting drafted early on, but you can't also put all your eggs in one basket and saying, well, the D-League is the way, or I got to try to get a free agent look if I don't have it. It's ways you can get into the NBA and pursue your dream, or if not, you can still have a great career like you're having right now, Boki, playing for a number of years professionally overseas. You got, for Americans to go overseas and play, think about how that opens you up from a perspective of enlightenment in regards to living in a different country. I mean, growing as a man, let alone playing in a really good league and making money. So there's more than one way to skin the cat. You know, maybe the NBA is not there, but that doesn't mean you can't pursue your dream professionally. But what I would say is, one, you have to understand the dynamics of the game and that it's a numbers game. And if you can understand that and understand what your value is, I see a lot of guys go play in the summer league and all they want to do is score. They don't understand that a lot of these teams got scorers already. Figure out what they need on that team and figure the best way to give it to them. And then maybe that way you can carve out your own little niche, whether that's playing defense, rebounding, not turning the ball over, being the leader. Maybe that's your way to get in. Because once you get in, now maybe you can start to look at other aspects of how you can benefit. But you got to figure out what that team needs from or what they're missing and how to give it to them.
Yeah, and I was in Vegas this summer for the MBPA Leadership Development Program, which is like a program where the MBPA is offering ex-NBA players a chance to talk to GMs, team GMs, coaches, scouts, presidents of the team, so on, to like teach you about the front office work. Yeah, and I always knew like NBA is detailed and they have a lot of scouts and they do a lot of reports on players. But we're talking to these people, I had no idea how much into detail they go about every single player, about what they do, how they work out, where they're from, like how dedicated they are, and not just for college players, but for players all over the world. Right. So like you said, like even if it means that you might be somewhere in some European country playing basketball right now and being 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, it's worth dedicating the hard work to it and putting it all, because you never know when you can get noticed, with NBA having so many people all around the world. It's like a network right now. Like every single gym seems to be covered by some NBA team or some NBA scout is there. So it's rarely happens that some player is really overlooked that has talent to make it in the NBA. Jim, I really can't thank you enough for your time. This was like an awesome conversation. Like I'm so happy we got to we got back in touch after many years and had a chance to talk to you. I honestly, I wish I did more of that when we were teammates. The time flew by so fast. The time that we were playing together. But anytime you do decide to come over to Europe, like, you have my contact, so please reach out. I'll be more than happy to take you around and show you different places. Really, thanks so much for your time.
Hey, listen, Bo, it's been a pleasure, brother. Our time was short in Houston, but it was fun. I'm so proud of you that you've been able to extend your basketball playing career, and you're enjoying it. You're having a good time. You know what I mean? A lot of people can be frustrated from not playing in the NBA, but you've never been like that anyway. Even when you weren't playing, you had a real positive attitude. That's why you've been able to play, and you're going to have much more success on the back end. I know you're passionate to work with kids and do stuff over there, so that's going to work for you, bro. I'll be following you. And later on in the season, let's get back together and talk some NBA.
For sure. Yeah. We'll be in touch.
We should do that.
All right, brother.
Yeah. Thanks so much. We'll be in touch, Jim. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye. All right. Take care. Bye. Ok, to je bil pogovor z Jim Jacksonom. Jaz upam, da ste tudi vi uživali v tem pogovoru, kot sem jaz, Anže. Tebi tudi bil verjetno zanimiv kot kot fan košarke 90-ih.
Ja, mislim, pa model ful dobro govori.
Ja, dosti govorim, ampak dosti je povedal.
To je tudi res, to je razlika. Ali sam govoriš, ali tudi kaj poveš. Kašna poeta sva, to je noro. Ja, čist poeta.
Ja. Ampak res moram reči, tako brze bancije. No. Ful mi je prijeten, da sem se z Jimom uspel tudi povezati. Prek podcast, da je bil ta tool, s katerim sem se z njim povezal. Ja. Skozi nekem kontaktu, enkrat na leto message, pa sem nekaj videl televizija, pa na netu, ki je pa, good job na televiziji, pa on men, kako si pa tako. Ampak končno se s človekom pogovarjati, pa mislim, da več kot 10 letih, pa oziroma nekje 10 letih je pa tudi ful prijetno in me veseli, da se tip ni spremenil, da še vedno deluje isti, kot je bil. In, to je ena taka lepa stran podcastanja, da se povežeš s starimi prijatelji. Tako da upam, da se tudi poslušalci o tem poslušali. Anže, admin, za na koncu.
Ta podcast je del mreže Aparatus, kjer najdete še par podcastov, v bistvu 5 jih je še zraven, ne vem več, prvič povem. Imamo tudi, imamo tudi Twitter account, afna podrobnosti _si, smo tudi na Facebooku, nas tam polajkite, pa v iTunesih dajte kakšno oceno. Sicer se pa da mrežo Aparatus tudi podpreti brez tega si tega res ne več šli, tako da pejte na aparatus.si/podpri, pa podpri, pa tam poklikite, ker res ful prav pride. Tako da to je bil admin.
Ja, res. Tudi v mojem imenu. Najbolj hvala vsem, ki poslušate in podpirate ta podcast in mrežo Aparatus. Ki nas najde folk, tako bom rekel, Jim Jackson in na Twitterju, njega lahko najdete pod @JimJackson419. Dajte mu malo zatežiti iz Slovenije. Ja. Oziroma po slovensko zatežiti.
Drugač pa kje pa ti na internetu?
Boki Nahbar na Instagramu pa na Twitterju, na Snapchatu me malo zmanjkuje. Bom se prav potrudil, da še kaj snapnem.
Jaz sem pa tudi dobil isti username posod, tako da sem Anzet na Twitterju, Instagramu in Snapchatu. Ja, posod sem Anzet.
Okay,
sem kar ponosen na to. No. Tako,
Super. Until next time bomo rekli, ne?
Ja.
Smo že angleško vodili epizodo.
Reč srečno, zdaj moraš srečno govoriti.
A je to moja poleg?
To je zdaj to je tvoj v bistvu tako catchphrase.
Okay.
Ti na koncu rečeš srečno.
Ok, pa bom malo zdaj malo počakal. Ok, zdaj bom pa rekel srečno.
Jaz ne vem, zakaj mi je to tako zabavno, ampak mi je, čau.
Ajde.